Okay, so picture this, April 10th, 2025, like way out in the middle of nowhere, basically, a small village in Bihar's Samastipur district. And it feels peaceful, right? Like you'd think it was just another ordinary day, but then this story emerges like something out of the blue. It's tragic, really. And it's got this like Romeo and Juliet vibe, but with a really messed up ending, all going down in like the least likely place imaginable, a washroom.
Yeah, that image is pretty striking, isn't it? A washroom. Like, it's supposed to be this private, almost sanitized space, right? But here it becomes the backdrop for something so brutal, and it kind of hits you right away that this isn't some random act of violence. It's deeply personal, something that exploded within a family.
You got it. And at the heart of this whole thing is Kashi, a 20-year-old woman from Tanda village. Now rewind back to March 4th. She and her boyfriend, who were both college students from the same neighborhood, decided to do something pretty drastic. They eloped to New Delhi, like a real act of rebellion.
Oh, yeah. Ditching everything familiar, heading to Delhi, that takes some serious guts, right? It shows how intense the pressure they were facing must have been. I mean, this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing. They were determined to be together enough to break away from their community's norms. You got to figure that conventional ways of being together were probably totally shut down for them.
And for a bit, it seemed like they had actually pulled it off. Found that freedom they were craving staying with a relative in Delhi, almost like a sigh of relief, escaping all that baggage. But here's the thing. Those ties to home to tradition, they can be crazy strong.
You said it. Filing that missing person report by Sakshi's father, Mukesh Kumar Singh, who was a retired soldier, that was just standard procedure, right? But man, it set off this chain of events that ended right back in Bihar, and it ended tragically. It really makes you think about how fast a personal choice can turn into this huge family and legal drama in this kind of setting.
And that intervention, man, it happened fast. Police tracked Sakshi down in Delhi, and boom, just over a month after she took off on April 8th, she's back in Bihar, and that's the turning point, where that act of rebellion smacked right into her family's disapproval.
Can you imagine the tension when she got back? The disappointment, the anger, maybe even a sense of betrayal from her family and for Sakshi. I mean, maybe she thought things could be patched up right. Maybe relatives of her boyfriend had this idea that they could smooth things over, convince everyone to accept them. But man, it probably turned into this pressure cooker situation.
Well, Sakshi's maternal uncle, Bipin Kumar, he seemed to pick up on that danger. He started noticing Mukesh wasn't being straight about where Sakshi was after she got back. Sometimes it's that gut feeling from someone close to the family that uncovers the truth in these tough situations.
Yeah, Bipin's suspicion was huge. It tells you that Mukesh's reaction wasn't just your typical dad being upset. This was something else, man. Something that scared those close to him. It makes you wonder what they knew about Mukesh's personality. His views on stuff like this.
Thank God Bipin went with his gut and called the cops. At first, Mukesh tried to play it off, like Sakshi had run away again, another elopement. But the police, they weren't buying it. They dug deeper.
You got to give it to the cops on this one. They didn't just brush it off as another runaway teenager. Something felt off, so they kept pushing, and that's how they uncovered the truth. And man, it was a nasty one.
It was.
Yeah.
And when the truth came out, it was beyond awful. Mukesh cracked under pressure and confessed to killing Sakshi, and the place he did it in the family's washroom. Talk about a messed up juxtaposition.
The location, yeah, that sends chills down your spine, right? A washroom. It's all about privacy, keeping things clean, and here it is, the scene of this horrific act. I mean, maybe he wanted to keep it quiet. Bury the evidence within their own home, who knows?
The police found Sakshi's body right where he said it would be. And the very next night, April 9th, Mukesh Kumar Singh was arrested by Officer Birendra Kumar Satyarthi. He's now locked up for the next 14 days while they figure things out. Justice might be slow, but at least it's moving.
Yeah. The quick arrest after the confession that was important sends a message that you can't just get away with this kind of violence. But the scars, man, they run deep for the family and the community. They'll be dealing with this long after the legal stuff is done.
So let's try and understand what pushed this father to do something so horrific. I mean, Sakshi and her boyfriend were practically neighbors, went to the same college. So what was the problem? Caste. That's the issue. The age-old, deeply rooted problem of caste.
Right. They shared so much their community, their education. It really highlights how arbitrary and yet how powerful caste divisions are in so many parts of India. It's like these social hierarchies, they're officially gone, but they still control so much marriages who you can be friends with. And tragically, sometimes they lead to violence when people try to break free.
Both their families were dead set against the relationship purely because they belonged to different castes. This wasn't just parents being ticky about their kid's partner. This was a full-blown clash with deeply ingrained social norms.
Hmm.
What Sakshi did running off with her boyfriend, that was a huge act of defiance against that whole system.
No doubt about it, eloping. Like, that, it wasn't just teenage rebellion. They were making a statement, rejecting the rules that were trying to control their lives, their love. It shows the struggle between wanting to be happy and the rigid structure of a society that's still clinging to these outdated social hierarchies.
And here's another layer to this tragedy already. Sakshi's boyfriend's family. They got involved after the elopement. They actually convinced the couple to come back home.
Man, talk about pressure from all sides. It shows they were willing to try anything to make it work. Maybe they thought involving the families would lead to some kind of acceptance. Tragically, it backfired big time.
There's even a video of Sakshi being handed back to her parents. Can you picture that? They probably thought it was a step towards reconciliation, getting back to normal. But it turned into the setup for something unimaginable. It's haunting to think about what was said, what was going through their minds in that moment.
That video, man, is loaded with questions. Was Sakshi forced to go back? Did they promise her things? What was the mood like? It's a chilling reminder of the power dynamics at play and how manipulation and deception might have factored into this whole mess.
Now, what about Sakshi's mother? What's her side of the story? It sounds like she was living in a family ruled by fear and control. She claimed she didn't know anything about the murder. Said Mukesh told her Sakshi ran off again.
It's tough to say what the mother really knew. In these kinds of families where the father has all the power, it's not unusual for women to be left in the dark about what the men are doing. Fear of what he'd do or what the community would think if she spoke up might have kept her silent.
And the folks in Tanda village, what are they saying? Shock, outrage. They want justice for Sakshi. This wasn't something that just flew under the radar.
That reaction from the community, it's a sign that maybe attitudes are changing, at least locally. People are recognizing that this kind of violence in the name of tradition is wrong. Public outcry can be powerful, man. It can force people to be held accountable, and it can push for change, even if it's slow.
This is being called an honor killing, a term that unfortunately reflects a harsh reality in India. We're talking dozens, maybe even hundreds of cases like this every year. It's this clash between an individual's right to love who they want and those deeply rooted traditions about caste and family honor.
Honor killing. It's a phrase we hear a lot, but it's a messed up way to describe an act of violence trying to justify it through some twisted idea of honor. These acts come from a mindset that puts family reputation and social status above basic human rights, especially for women.
So the investigation is still going on. Sakshi's body has been sent for an autopsy, a necessary step, even with a confession, to figure out exactly how she died.
The autopsy, it's important. It's not just taking Mukesh's word for it. It's getting the hard evidence to back up his confession and build a strong case. It's all part of getting justice.
What we don't know is where Sakshi's boyfriend is and what his take on all this is. I mean, he was a key part of this from the very beginning. What he went through while they were away. What happened when they came back, that could be crucial information.
That silence, man, it speaks volumes. Is he hiding out because he's scared? Does he have information that could change everything? His perspective could shed light on what they were up against as a couple and what led them to go back home, even though it turned out so badly.
It's a truly heart-wrenching story, isn't it? A young woman dead because of a social system that should have been left behind in the history books.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how deep these prejudices run, even in 2025.
It's a wake-up call that even though we're making progress in so many ways, those deep-seated social and cultural norms, they can be stubborn as hell.
Yeah.
It shows the constant battle between individual freedom and those oppressive forces of tradition and control.
And the question that lingers is, will tragedies like Sakshi's death finally spark real change? Or will they just be forgotten, another tragic repeat in a long line of them?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Will this horror make people take a hard look at themselves and start questioning those discriminatory practices? Will it lead to better laws and protection for vulnerable people? Or will it fade away, leaving the root problems to fester? The answer, man, it's on us. It depends on whether we're ready to face these tough truths head on and work towards a fairer world.
It's heavy stuff to end on, but it's important. This deep dive into Sakshi's story wasn't just about laying out the facts. It was about understanding the complex forces at play and making sure these issues stay in the spotlight. Her story might be heartbreaking, but it deserves our attention and it deserves to be remembered.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
Catch you later.